Okay, good morning everyone. Good morning Queensland and good morning Maryborough, good morning Wide Bay, and it's wonderful to be back in Maryborough, and I've got some exciting news for Maryborough and the whole Wide Bay region, but first of all we're going to give our COVID update. So I can report in good news, we've had 0 community cases. We have 1 case overseas acquired and in hotel quarantine, so once again that's very good news. We have had 9,805 tests in the past 24 hours and 15,825 vaccines by Queensland Health. So now Queensland is up to 72.81% first dose and 57.45% fully vaccinated. So today we are here in Maryborough, but I want to talk about the Wide Bay region, and once again I'm urging everyone to get vaccinated. We've got some good results in Maryborough. Maryborough is with the state average, around 71.8% first dose. Hervey Bay, got Adrian and Bruce here. Adrian, 73.8% first dose. So Hervey Bay is sort of beating Maryborough a bit here at the moment. So we need to really keep lifting these vaccination rates. Bundaberg, 72%. Childers, bit under, 69%. So come on, Childers. Gympie, 66%. Gayndah. Now Gaynda's down a bit. Gaynda's only at 50%. So come on Gayndah, come out and get vaccinated. We really need to make sure that you're up with the state average and if not higher. Mundubbera, 84.6%. If they can do 84.6%, the rest of the region can. Monto, 66%. Eidsvold is 53%. So we'll give those full details out to everybody. But in this region, we want to make sure we lift those vaccination rates up because it's going to protect everyone. Like I said, this is about weathering a storm. We are in the best position to weather this storm. Hang on a minute. We'll just wait for the... Thanks, Mayor. So welcome. Thank you. So look, we need to weather this storm, and Queensland is going to be in the best position to weather this storm if we are fully vaccinated. And I need people to get vaccinated. Think about being in this storm. I can't look after you if you won't hop on the lifeboat. So just think about that. We need everybody to get on the lifeboat and we'll be protected because we'll be vaccinated. So come on Queensland, you know, we've got 11 days to go to get everyone vaccinated. So we'll be pushing this message out to everyone, and I hope you all continue to do that. So that's fantastic news today. So what I might do is hand over to Dr. Young and the local members and the Mayor, and then once we finish with any COVID questions, then we'll make our other announcements. So I'll hand over to Dr. Young. Thank you.
So yes, excellent news. The Wide Bay area has done a really good job with vaccinating. We've just got to get those last few to get vaccinated going forwards, because that will be the best protection. You have a first-class public health unit here that has protected you and kept you safe. But the next protection is now up to you. So every single one of you, 12 years of age or older, please come forward. You can come forward to the town hall here. They've got plenty of capacity to vaccinate. There are many other venues all through the Wide Bay you can get vaccinated in. Now, you've got 11 days, so that's your task. In the next 11 days, anyone 12 years of age or older who lives in your region needs to come and get their first dose, because then you're a great tourist site. I mean, just driving through Maryborough here, you're a beautiful town. I can see why people would want to come and see you, but that will be a risk for you if you're not vaccinated. So just come out, every single one of you, and get vaccinated. There's no time to wait. You would have been reassured till now. That won't last. So just come and get vaccinated. Well, now, one other message for all of Queensland I just need to let people know about. So Queensland will be allowing green flights again from the South Island of New Zealand. So any of you who have relatives there will be able to travel without quarantining, as they have got an outbreak in Auckland that's been going for quite a while now, but there's been no transmission to the South Island. So the South Island, as long as you don't go into the North Island in the 14 days before you travel to Queensland, you will be able to travel directly to Queensland. It doesn't work the other way though. So don't think that if you live here that you can go to the South Island. You can't at this stage. That's a decision for New Zealand, but Queensland's made that decision. So just to end up on that note, please, throughout Queensland, no matter where you live in our wonderful state, it is really, really important, 12 years of age or older, that you come forward today. You've got 11 days, but let's do it all today. Come forward, go to one of our many, many vaccination sites, pharmacies, GPs, or the Queensland health sites. All of them are free. So don't worry about which of them you go to, whatever is the most convenient for you to turn up at. Just turn up there, get your first dose of Pfizer, 3 weeks later your second, or get for pharmacies, get your first dose of Moderna, and 4 weeks later get your second. Thank you.
Bruce, do you want to say a few words?
Thanks, Premier. Thanks, Dr. Young. Look, urging everyone, please, get vaccinated. We need everyone vaccinated. There's two reasons particularly here is our older population across the Wide Bay, particularly here in Maryborough. And the second thing is the industry. We've got to keep our industry going here. The COVID response from the Palaszczuk government has been fantastic. We haven't had a blip here at all. Our industries are still going well. We've got our timber mills, our Downer manufacturing plant, our industrial places here have still been producing and people going to work every day. And we do not want to interrupt that. We need people's health to be looked after, but we also need to keep the economy going of this city. Maryborough is zooming ahead, so please get vaccinated. I'm double vaccinated, ready to go. We need to get that to that 80% plus. And I know, talking to the member for Hervey Bay, him and I are both on the same page, that urging people to get out there, get your jab, get going so we can get the state moving again and keep this region moving forward. As the government has done, the Premier, the Treasurer and the Cabinet has kept us safe here, but also kept us economically moving ahead, and that's what we've got to continue to do.
I just want to add to the words of the Premier and the Chief Health Officer and of course of Bruce Saunders. Hervey Bay, you're doing really, really well, but we need to push now. We need to be absolutely sure that when we open up and the virus comes to us, that we are as fully vaccinated as we possibly can be. We need to make absolutely sure. Get in there, get your jab. Go to Bunnings, get your jab and a snag. Please, I tell everybody in Hervey Bay, make sure that you get vaccinated. We've been trying as hard as you can to we can't overemphasise the fact that the virus is coming, and we need to make sure that everybody's vaccinated. Please be safe. We're doing the best we can to ensure that the people of Hervey Bay are safe, but get vaccinated at every opportunity. Talk to your friends, talk to your relatives, make sure they get vaccinated.
Thank you, and I just want to say how pleasing it is to have both the Premier and the Chief Health Officer, Dr. Young, here in Maryborough at our vaccination clinic at the historic Maryborough City Hall. You can't quantify the number of people that are enjoying this beautiful Maryborough day, the sunshine, that are walking around alive today because of their leadership, but they're here. People are alive, enjoying this beautiful day because of the leadership of the Chief Health Officer and the Premier and the way the community has responded. Most of all, we have followed the science, we've been sensible, we've been rational, but we've looked after one another. It was keeping socially distant, staying at home when we needed to, getting tested if we had any signs of COVID symptoms, and now it is getting vaccinated. By working together, we have got through this plague, this pandemic, for months and months, and the next step is getting vaccinated so that we can see our family. I've got a sister in Perth I want to see. I've got family and friends throughout the country, just like so many other people in our community, and it's getting vaccinated that'll see that happen. So thank you again for your leadership, what you've done for this state, keeping people alive, and making sure that we are the envy of the world in terms of how people have got through this pandemic.
Thank you. Any questions on vaccinations? We'll be talking to business about that over the coming weeks, but the priority at the moment is to get vaccinated. I'm absolutely telling Queenslanders the storm is coming. The storm is coming. We need to be prepared. I want everyone on the lifeboat. I can't help you unless you're on that lifeboat. So come on, Queensland. Let's get vaccinated. We've got a good start there, but we've got to get those vaccination rates up to 80% and above. And I know we can do it. So if you haven't had your vaccine, talk to your local members, talk to your mayor, talk to your councillors, find out where your local vaccine centres are and come out and get vaccinated.
From December 17, when borders reopened, what are the logistics around checking that people driving across the border from south are fully vaccinated?
Yeah, the police will be administering that.
So
They're working on that now. They're working on that now. But they have to comply with being fully vaccinated.
And from December 17, if someone
Yep.
who is fully vaccinated catches the virus, will they have to isolate them? And how will that work with regards to post-vaccine as well?
I might get Dr. Young to talk to that, but if we detect that someone, this is why we have to have our testing and tracing and isolation methods firmly in place. That's why the check-in app is really, really important so people can check in. But people will still be asked to isolate unless you're in a fully vaccinated workplace. But I might get Dr. Young to address that issue. Thank you.
Yes, that's a very sensible question. Thank you for asking it. So we will need to, going forward, still isolate people who test positive. There'll be nothing different there, except that if they're fully vaccinated, we know that they'll get much milder disease, so they'll probably be able to do that at home rather than in one of our hospitals. So we'll assess the home, we'll assess the other people who are in that home and what the risks are, and they'll probably be able to be managed in one of our virtual wards to make sure that they're okay. Everyone else in that home will then be, of course, a primary contact, and they'll have to quarantine for 14 days. But the risk of getting infected with COVID-19, if you're fully vaccinated, is much less. So the inconvenience of having to isolate and for your family having to quarantine is much, much less if you're vaccinated. So really, you want to be vaccinated so that you don't get sick and end up in ICU and die, but you also want to be vaccinated because it's far less inconvenient for yourself and your family. So very good question.
Why do domestic travellers from COVID-19 hotspots not have to quarantine from December 17, but international travellers can't do it until 90%? What's the reason for this?
Because the risk from overseas is much higher. So at this stage, we look at overseas, and as I've just announced earlier in this press conference, we've done that work looking at the South Island of New Zealand, so they no longer have to isolate or quarantine. They'll be able to come in on what we call green flights and are free to go about. So we assess that all the time, and the Commonwealth is responsible for doing that. So the Commonwealth is assessing countries around the world all the time, and once they assess the risks as being less, as they did with the South Island of New Zealand, then of course we'll work that through and assess those risks for Queensland. At this point in time, the Commonwealth has determined that all countries around the world are at a higher risk and we need to quarantine.
Dr. Young, when the virus does intrastate, how will our hospitals handle it? Is there already someone there who handles it?
Yeah. So the good thing about all of this is we started preparing for this last January when we first heard that there was a new virus out there and there would be probably a pandemic. So we started preparing before the WHO even announced a pandemic, and all that work has been done. So yes, our hospitals will manage it. But I put to you, just because our hospitals will manage this, and of course they will, who wants to get this disease and put themselves at risk and put their families at risk? So yes, our hospitals are there, as they are there for all of our community for every reason. They will continue to be there. They will manage it, but they will be under stress and they will need to make decisions. So if your town, and it doesn't look like Maryborough is going to head there because you've done so well already with vaccination. But if you were like some of our other communities, still down at 50%, and that didn't improve, then if you were to have the virus get into that town, and it will, and lead to large numbers of cases, then the hospital will have to make choices. They'll have to decide, do they need to delay elective surgery, elective outpatients? But if you're in a town with very high vaccination rates, well over 90%, and I think you can do it, then you won't have to make those choices. So the advice is, do what you do for your kids. Your kids all get vaccinated, more than 95% of them, with the most complicated vaccination schedule I could possibly imagine. This is a really easy schedule, 2 doses, right? Simple. So if we can do it for our kids, we can do it for ourselves. And we've got to do it and just get on with it.
That's actually not correct. So I spoke with all of the mayors after we made the announcement, and I have ministers across the length and breadth of Queensland today, and a lot of them are in Indigenous communities. And I say to our First Nations people that we want you to come forward and get vaccinated, and over the coming days we will have announcements to make it easier for you to get vaccinated. Okay? All right, might move on to the next announcement now, if that's all right, because it's very big and it's got a lot to get through. So Queensland, because we've been able to keep you safe and focus on the health response, we have had a very strong economic recovery. And it also means that our government has been able to focus on planning for the future and to make sure that we are looking at regional communities across our state and having long-term secure jobs and a continual pipeline of investment in these regions. Now, I know there's going to be no one happier in Queensland today than Bruce Saunders, the local member for Maryborough, because today I'm here with the Treasurer and Minister Bailey to announce trains, trains and more trains. I said that we would restore Maryborough to being able to be the manufacturing hub of train making in Queensland. Not only will it be the hub, this is going to be the largest investment in train manufacturing that Queensland has ever seen. Today we are announcing a $7 billion investment in train manufacturing. Initially we said we were going to ask for 20 trains to be built. We will now be asking for 65 trains to be built. This is setting up Maryborough and the entire Wide Bay region for the future. See, great news for Maryborough. Everyone's chiming in. Excellent. Now, also, the great news is this is our first Olympics announcement as well, because these trains will be needed for the Olympics for our Cross River Rail, and it sets up the pipeline of trains for the future. This is the first local procurement announcement for the Olympics, and it's being done in regional Queensland. I've often been up to Maryborough here and I've spoken with the men and the women who work in train manufacturing. Now I'm saying to their children and their grandchildren that your futures are secure. Because we've had the strong health response, our government has been able to sit down and plan for this region's future. And today is a bright day. It is about investment in train manufacturing here. But in terms of supply chains, it stretches to Rockhampton. There's going to be announcements on the Gold Coast as well, and Minister Bailey will outline a bit more about that. But today is a fantastic day. It's setting this region up for the future, and I'm very proud to be here with the local member, the Treasurer and Minister Bailey for this very significant announcement. This is one of the most significant announcements that our government has made. During the last election campaign, we said we'd bring train manufacturing back, and this announcement secures it. And not only that, we absolutely triple that investment. So, Mark, over to you.
Sure, thanks, Premier. A real pleasure to join the Premier, the Treasurer, Assistant Minister for Train Manufacturing, Bruce Saunders, who always puts Maryborough first, and Adrian Tantari, our member for Hervey Bay. Look, this is a massive announcement for not just the Maryborough and Hervey Bay region, but for the whole state. When we came to office, Maryborough was fast becoming a ghost town because Campbell Newman and David Crisafulli ordered trains from overseas and not made here in Maryborough. And under this Labor government, under Premier Palaszczuk, Maryborough and the region is becoming the boom town because this is a tripling, more than a tripling of our election commitment of 20 new trains, 65 new trains, and they're needed for the growth that's coming to Queensland and southeast Queensland and also for the Games. So to have a state-of-the-art facility at Torbanlea where we've secured the land, it will be a best practice state-of-the-art rail manufacturing centre with high quality jobs and it means long-term quality manufacturing jobs right here in Maryborough. And so 150 years of rail manufacturing history here, and we are guaranteeing a future for all the workers in this region, and we'll need more workers. So there's great opportunities here in terms of rail manufacturing in this region because of this commitment. The Palaszczuk Labor government believes in manufacturing jobs in our own state. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and today is nothing short of a massive announcement, more than a tripling of our election commitment. Bruce.
Treasurer. Treasurer.
Thanks very much.
He's got the
That's
checkbook.
fine. Yeah. Good morning to everyone in Maryborough, and particularly to all of our friends watching live on Facebook today. COVID's taught us many things, and one thing that COVID has taught us is Queenslanders do best when we back ourselves. That's what following the health advice has been all about. When we follow the health advice, we get the economic dividend and the economic benefit coming back to Queensland. We've seen that in the Wide Bay. Last year, the Brisbane-Hervey Bay air route was one of the top 10 air routes in the country. We've seen consumer spending growing this year, 29% up in the Wide Bay region, 29% over pre-COVID numbers. We've seen dwelling approvals in the Wide Bay increase a staggering 88% in the 12 months to August, twice as fast as the national average. But following the health advice allows us to make announcements like the announcement we are making today about the future of manufacturing in Queensland. Now, it's not possible for us to paint all of these trains maroon, but every Queenslander will know this. These trains will be made in Queensland, built, owned and operated. Built, owned and operated in Queensland. And we know how important manufacturing jobs are. These are long-term manufacturing jobs, not just for Wide Bay, but for Queensland. And whether it be trains in Maryborough, in fact this will have a benefit for the entire Wide Bay region as well as for Queensland, whether it's combat vehicles with Rheinmetall at Redbank, whether it's building renewable energy equipment at one of the biggest factories of its kind in the world, a factory to be built by Fortescue Future Industries in Gladstone. We are a government that supports manufacturing and we support making things in Queensland. But now the challenge for us is changing. The challenge for us to maintain our economic recovery, the challenge to deliver these sorts of jobs and manufacturing jobs has changed because of what will happen with the virus. We are one of the few places in the world that has been able to crush the Delta variant. We've done it over and over again, but that is going to change. When Delta arrives in Queensland, Delta will be here to stay. Delta will be in our community. And as the Premier has said, we need as many Queenslanders to get on that lifeboat as possible. That is the way to support our economy, to support jobs, but also to keep ourselves, our families and our communities and our workplaces safe. Delta is insidious. If you are unvaccinated, Delta will find you and it will harm you and your family and your community. And so we must act. We must have, just as we've had a strong economic response, we must continue to follow the health advice so we have a strong response to this challenge that Queensland now faces. We've seen senior Queenslanders come forward, and they've come forward in the Wide Bay in large numbers to get vaccinated. So now we're calling on younger Queenslanders who are our future. We're calling on them now, particularly people aged 20 to 40. We're asking them to step up now. Please do your bit for Queensland. That's the call we're making to young Queenslanders today. It's a call to arms for young Queenslanders. It's a call for arms from young Queenslanders. Please do that right thing. Do the right thing for yourself, your mates, do it for your family and do it for your community. Delta is coming and we want the Wide Bay in Queensland to be prepared.
Well, this is a great day for Maryborough. Thank you, Premier, Treasurer and Transport Minister Mark Bailey, who I work very closely with. And this is a fantastic day for Maryborough City, a fantastic day for the whole of the region. As a local member, when I got elected in 2015, I spoke to the Premier at length about building trains back in Maryborough. This is a plan that's come to fruition. There's 800 jobs for our region at Torbanlea. Torbanlea is a great community. It's a mining community, Torbanlea Howard. It's a great block of land that the government has purchased there. I'm looking forward to this. Maryborough is back. Maryborough is the #1 train building facility in the Southern Hemisphere again. We've got a great skill base here. We've got great people in our city. And it's as a local member, it's fantastic to be backed by the Premier and the Cabinet to make this decision. This is a huge investment. We're talking about billions of dollars investment in this region and 800 full-time jobs in our region and this will help us move forward. The response from the Premier and the Cabinet and the Chief Health Officer through COVID has been nothing but outstanding, and I'm being proud to be part of a government that has led the charge for COVID, and the economic recovery in this area, as the Premier and the Treasurer just outlined, has been nothing but outstanding. And you look around, when I got elected in 2015, we called Maryborough Detroit City because that's what it was looking at. We had more empty shops. Houses we couldn't sell here, they virtually were being given away. When you look at the new Maryborough under the Palaszczuk Labor government, which is a traditional Labor government, it's gone back to manufacturing, gone back to our base, made sure that regional Queensland is looked after. You look at Maryborough today, go back to February 2015 and have a look at the difference in our community now, and that's because we've got a Premier and we've got a Cabinet who really have invested in regional Queensland. They have really looked after regional Queensland, particularly the Fraser Coast Wide Bay area. So proud to be part of this government. Premier, on behalf of everyone and our workers, and I know I've got my mate here today, and I call him a mate, Pete, from the AMW, from one of our train builders in our city. Premier, we thank you, and we thank the Cabinet, and we thank you from the bottom of our heart of what you've done for our community. I know the Mayor's very happy. You know, the vision that you have for our region and the Cabinet has for our region is fantastic, and that's something that this government's done. This being part of the Palaszczuk Labor government is probably the most humbling thing I've ever done in my life, and just to be part of it is the greatest thing I've ever done. And I'm so proud to stand here today with the Premier, the Treasurer and the Transport Minister to announce this lot of money, a lot of jobs in our community. Thank you, Premier. Well, we've got to have we'll have trains, some trains on the track by 2025. We've got to go through the contract at the moment for to build the trains. We've got to get the design for the factory. It's all work in progress. I know Minister Bailey and his team have been doing a fantastic job because I get a lot of phone calls late at night, early in the morning to make sure that we're up to speed and we're working with them. But as a government as a whole, this is on track, and we're looking forward to being the train manufacturing capital again of the Southern Hemisphere.
Premier, can we just ask you, last time with the trains...
Hang on, I'll just get the Mayor wants to say a few words, if that's all right. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to say that this is a wonderful day for the Fraser Coast and Maryborough, and it's a historic day for Maryborough. Manufacturing runs in our blood in Maryborough. It's a central part of our history, and thanks to Bruce Saunders and the Palaszczuk government, it's a fundamental part of our future. In 1873, the workers at John Walker & Co. Union Foundry built the very first locomotive in Queensland, the Mary Ann. We're proud of it, and we're extremely proud of the men and women who work in Maryborough building things now. Maryborough is a place where things will be built, trains and so much more. We're proud of these workers. We're proud of today and what we'll be doing into the future, building trains for Queensland and Australia.
Thanks, Mayor.
And Premier, last time trains were on the table for Maryborough, we had the disability access issues pop up for various reasons. How are we going to ensure this time around those same mistakes?
Well, they definitely won't be happening. We've had to fix those issues. My government's fixed those issues, and we will definitely make sure that they are going to be compliant with people with a disability. Now, can I just say, this is 800 jobs for this region. This is a significant announcement. 800 jobs, long-term secure jobs, setting rail manufacturing up here for the decades to come. Now, this is going to be part of a tender process. The process will be concluded by early next year. It'll be awarded by middle of next year. And the reason that we had to make this decision, because we're about to go out for tender for 20 trains, we looked at the future and what we actually needed now that we also had the Olympics, and we are planning for our future. And Queensland's best days are ahead of us, and that's why the 65 trains is such a significant announcement for this region.
What do you say to train manufactured in Queensland, or is the parts coming from overseas? Are they fitting them out here? How does that work?
we have a lot of manufacturing ability here in Queensland, and we want to see as much of that done right here, local jobs happening here in this area.
What will it mean for Downer's factory in Maryborough? Will the factory...
Yeah, well, Minister Bailey can talk about that. They're already doing a lot of work at the moment, and of course they're free to put in a tender. It's a tender process that now has to happen, and but I give you this guarantee: the trains will be made in Maryborough.
Here, here.
And will that local input avoid any future mistakes?
Sorry.
Will that local input and that local knowledge...
Oh, we've actually there's been recommendations that were made from that inquiry, and that's all taken on board. So there's absolutely zero issues.
With 800 extra jobs, Maryborough has less than 1%.
This is going to be a boom time for Maryborough.
Where are all these people going to live with the housing shortage?
Well, that's up to the council to work through those issues, over to the mayor to look at that, but it's a great place to live, work and raise a family and to build trains right here in Queensland. And as the Treasurer said, they're going to be Queensland made, owned and operated.
And is this just one of the first impacting announcements to get Queensland ready for the Olympics?
This is the first significant announcement. Honestly, these are the trains that are needed. Cross River Rail is being built as we speak, and it's basically in perfect alignment for everything that we need for the Olympics. Okay?
All right.
Thanks everyone. Thank you. We're going to go and have a look in the vaccination centre.